Welcome back to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. I'm Chris, and today we have an incredible guest joining us. Our mission here is to fuel your drive to get things done by exploring the journeys of individuals who have successfully overcome procrastination and mastered productivity. Our guest today is Sharon Rolph. For most of her life, Sharon felt invisible, and when retired, she wondered how she'd know if she was productive. Today, she's a motivating influencer at 76, as an author, podcast guest, and the queen of courage on Instagram. Her days now feel right since finding her spark. This transformation she experienced is being offered to the public for the first time. Sharon is the perfect person to help others matter outside of work, live meaningfully, impact life with wisdom and confidence, and find their inner spark. Sharon's sparkle, passion, and her youthful appearance are easily confirmed. Her mental strength and faith have given her a healthy lifestyle. Potential has intrigued Sharon from a very young age, and she loves uniqueness. That's what she sees in people. From her behavioral science perspective, she inspires curiosity and possibilities in everyone. So before we get started, let's just kick things off with a fun icebreaker. So Sharon, who is your favorite historical figure and why?
Historical figure. And why? Gosh, I'm not sure I have one. Bob Proctor comes to mind. He's recently retired, but gone. But I didn't read a lot of his. Well, actually, Napoleon Hill, because that was prior to Bob Proctor, and a very interesting book that most people haven't read from Napoleon Hill is called Outwitting the Devil. An amazing book. And every now and then people write things that you're not quite sure they really happened. And you get that feeling from Outwitting the Devil, but there's so much truth in that. And I read it twice, and it went along with my resolution back about 30 years ago when I stomped my foot and said, I refuse to live my life based on fear. And it's changed my life from that point on. That's why I look so young. I do not fear.
Okay. So yeah, that sounds interesting. We'll have to definitely dive back into that and book a little later perhaps. So before we get into more of the show here today, let's learn more about you, Sharon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to where you are today?
Well, in fact, I turned in a kind of pre-podcast video yesterday for a lady, and I did that. How far have I come and since when? But I started even at 4 or 5 years old. I had this reoccurring dream about Mom taking us in the car and like she was going to offer us as a sacrifice, which doesn't make any sense. But I wanted to know what life was about. I told her I wanted to know what life was about, and I actually wanted to be invisible because at home that would be safe. There was sexual abuse happening almost daily, around me. And I decided that if I buckle down, don't rock the boat, be obedient, and get good grades, maybe I'd be safe. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago, Chris, I realized that maybe I'm still invisible and still taking off that cloak because I was a pretty good employee. I was reliable and always honest and always responsible. But it wasn't an exciting career. I just kind of did, the coast along, and I kept getting a few raises. I figured my boss every 4 years would know I was ready for something else. But as a teenager, I did wonder about my potential. I wonder what's in here, And I often did help people rewrite their resume because we're sometimes too close to our own skin to be objective, And so that was kind of fun. And throughout my life, little by little, I realized that I was unique. Well, I grew up on a farm. That's a little bit unique. Saying that, sometimes people would say, "Yeah, you're outstanding in your field." That's a compliment. Well, oh, you're outstanding in your field as a farmer. But I was the only one in my family that was a lifelong learner, and that made me different in my family. The fact that I skipped second grade made me different. And just that I always had the feeling of being authentic. I was true to myself. I walked my talk. I want you to take my words to the bank, in fact. So, but potential, I got a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, master's program, and I started processing that recovery work, because I was pretty much, I didn't have a relationship with my dad, and every kid deserves that. But they never came to my graduations. Nobody's really supported me per se in my accomplishments. And because I liked my own company, it was kind of okay, and it's still kind of okay. But there's still kind of a unsolved mystery as to why I was maybe treated that way. And I got the sense that the family secret that I didn't know about may have been that I was different in a spiritual kind of way, maybe even, or chosen or something along that line. It's okay. I'm Sharon, and I'm unique. I'm glad I'm here.
Wow, that is quite a backstory there. And do you think that has something to do with sort of what you decided to do? Because you're a retirement coach, so did that come about because of sort of what happened to you, that sort of feeling invisible and sort of not really knowing your inner uniqueness, or?
Because I like to bring out the best in people. And my last job at Boeing was an empowerment facilitator. And I describe that as being somebody that took problem solving down to the lowest level, which is usually good. But because there's a union at Boeing, the union people wanted to blame management instead of owning the problem. And actually they seemed to be doing more solving off the record than giving their management the solutions. But they want management to be responsible. And I got the feeling they were taking care of things themselves and just not bragging about it, I guess. But I have, since I went to coaching school, I have come out of there feeling like there's so much untapped potential in all this free time that retirees have. The problem with that, and there was a myth at Boeing kind of around this, as somebody told me that, a lot of people don't retire because they know they'll be dead in 3 years. What? And then since I retired, I did drive for Lyft for a year, and somebody in my car that I was visiting with, that myth was at her job too, and it had nothing to do with Boeing. So, and I'm not surprised all that much, in that guys usually need the fixer, the doer. They need to be active, and without that, they are bouncing off the wall. So, and our culture hasn't provided us a good resource to know where we can plug in with our unique skills and experiences and things that we've learned and can do. And therefore there's something missing for people who want to be busy. I actually know 2 or 3 very good resources for job matching, for volunteering. that have now come about, whether they're enough or whether there needs to be more of them. AARP had one for a while. I'm not sure they still do, called Reimagining Retirement. But there's now catchafire.org, I believe it is. Could be COM, I'm not sure. I don't have my handout here. And another one is called Catch a Fire. I actually went to a training they had on how to use their software. It'll come to me here pretty soon. So, but that I want to impact 10% of the boomers to know who they are on the inside. What did original equipment did they come with? That's a manufacturing. I don't, your car comes with original manufacturing parts. We did too. And nobody teaches us how we can know that. Well, I'm here to tell you, I can teach you how. And I think it's critical in that once you live from that place of destiny, perhaps, I call it spark or DNA or soul or essence, knowing what makes you percolate, what makes you shine. Intrinsic motivation is a good term for it. But when I first learned my essence statement, as it came my turn, I kind of sucked in my breath a little bit, and I thought, nobody's ever asked me to define my soul, and that's what I want to do for people. It's a well, another thing they don't teach us is that we're in charge of our structure of our day and our rest of our life. I intend to live for 100, and couch potatoes. It may take 3 years for a couch potato to die, because that's what happens when you don't have something to fix and do, But in May, I wrote a course on volunteering, make a marvelous transition into volunteering. And when I got through recording the videos for that, I just had such a strong feeling the next couple of days that it would change people's lives. One of the best reasons to do volunteering, it feels good. Would you want to feel good? With all this mess going on in the world, help me feel good. I've got an answer for you. And it is on the platform. It just was uploaded got out of the review process this weekend, and it's on The Great Discovery. You can either look for my program under my name, or I haven't tried to see if you can find it just by typing in "make a marvelous transition into retiring." And I have another one that's new this week, is "What makes your heart sing?" And I give you all kinds of 48 different out-of-the-box ideas to ponder, getting involved in, that will give you that sense of purpose and contentment and satisfaction, and that you're making a difference. I was 30,000 feet up in the air when I wrote the 48 ideas, and they're simple and they're amazing, like touching the water in 7 oceans. That's about the most preposterous thing I can imagine. Another one that's close to that is following the monarch butterfly migration. So
No, that sounds really interesting, and interestingly enough, a lot of what you just said there, setting foot in the 7 oceans or following the monarch butterfly, it seems to relate a lot with nature. So, do you think that is one of the key maybe motivators that to reconnect with ourselves, is to get back to nature?
well, in fact, I heard, let's see, I think I was retired then. And the Japanese actually have a term for spending time in the forest. And they apparently believe that the forest ministers to us in some way. I go for a walk every day, and I usually take biscuits with me to feed the dogs because I get my kisses from dogs. But and there's a park here, probably less than a mile away from me that I haven't gone into near enough, but it is in fact old growth trees, cedar and elm and whatever. The only one I recognize is cedar trees. But yeah, there's a, well, just like the first prescription for healing your depression often is to spend time outdoors. You get some sunlight, you get some fresh air, and it gets you outside of yourself, instead of, the term used to be gazing at your belly button. you actually are, looking at the sky and the sun and the birds. I love to whistle at the crows and the squirrels and the bunnies that are also usually outside, especially at dusk.
Okay. So you mentioned gazing there. So have you ever tried sun gazing or grounding as part of your practices?
I've heard of grounding. In fact, I was down here at the waterfront a couple of weeks ago, and the lady I was visiting, she actually took off her sandals and had them on concrete. And I said, "Are you getting grounding through your concrete?" And she told me she was. But when you take your shoes off and walk the beach with the sand, you are definitely getting grounding, and you're exfoliating your feet. I need to do much more of that. Yes, that's amazing what it does for your health.
Okay. Now, in terms of finding your spark, I mean, when we retire, we tend to lose this role. You mentioned the fixers and the doers. Do you think that it would benefit people to start, well, even today, let's say they're not looking at retirement for 10, who knows, maybe 15, 20 years. Do you think it's important for people to start asking those questions today? Start thinking about kind of who they are when they're outside or when they're not working anymore?
Yes, especially after 50, because the chances that you're no longer having your kids at home, they've left the nest. You may or may not need to be a caregiver to parents. You probably will get tapped on the shoulder to help take care of the grandkids somewhat, but the one of the things I cover in my Make a Marvelous Transition into Volunteering is that I talk about, I call it words of wisdom because it's not directly related to volunteering, but the value of time. And I bring out a couple tips from Stephen Covey about what's necessary, what's a distraction, what's a crisis, and what's quality time. They're not that perfect names on them, but even if you're in the middle of raising a family and working, if it's important enough to you to do, you can and could find time in your schedule to volunteer at any age. I bring out that volunteering often can lead to a job. It can lead to beefing up your resume, and young people often do that, before their first job happens. So the thing that I remember my mom teach, I think I was about 14 when I was when she made a comment to me. I don't remember what we were discussing, but it had something to do with doing something for someone else. And she says, well, when you bless them, you get a blessing too. And that whole principle of reciprocity is powerful. In fact, just last week, I volunteered for a couple of years now, delivering food bank groceries to people who either aren't driving or don't have a car anymore or whatever. And so it's been pretty steady for families that I've helped. And reciprocity happened last week. It was so exciting. In fact, it happened today too when I was there. This lady, she has a lavender bush right by her front door, and I like to rub my hands across the lavender and smell them, and so I commented on how much fun that is for me. And she says, well, go over here, whatever. I thought she was going to point me to some more flowers. Well, no, what she pointed me to is 2 trees that were overloaded with prunes and plums. And so she went to her garage and got a little box and sent me home with some fresh, ripe, I think one was prune and one was plum. So when I was there today, she invited me, again to load up. So I did. And then I took, since I live in a condo, I took after washing them, put them in a Tupperware thing and left them in the lobby for people that I shared with them, So the power of volunteering, I used as a guideline for the course that I wrote, an AARP past president that had been on my podcast here about 4 or 5 years ago. He had 9 steps of very organized thoughts about what happens with volunteering. One, you're learning something new. That's a big lesson for keeping yourself young. You're socializing with somebody, there's people that you're helping usually. You're meeting new people, beefing up your social health. And those 9 tips, and the last one was quite touching. He says you could be changing somebody's life forever. And he gives an example where he was commissioned to go into assisted living places and make sure that people were getting their needs met. And this one lady was never going down to the lunchroom to eat with others. And come to find out, I believe it was that she didn't have any teeth at all. She needed some dentures, and she didn't know how to get them apparently, or how they would be paid for or provided. And so he was able to get her teeth so that she could start being social just in the lunchroom, the cafeteria. And he felt like he changed her life. I don't know how old she was or anything about her, just that it was an older lady. And he felt that he had made enormous difference in this one person's life. Well, that can happen for any one of us, and how that desire to make an impact starts in just even baby steps.
Okay, wow, that's definitely sounds amazing there. And you mentioned reciprocal. I can't speak right now. Reciprocal actions. There you go. I just changed it. So you mentioned reciprocal actions and things that happen, and it's funny that you mentioned that. So do you believe that the more I believe you mentioned before Bob Proctor, and you mentioned Stephen Covey as well. So do you believe that the more you give, the more you also give back then?
Yeah, it often it may come in ways we don't recognize, but the whole giving and receiving principle is pretty big way to live life, because that flow of energy, the giving and receiving, is something so healthy. And I think of the term wholehearted living, and it definitely would include the reciprocity. And well, I think, Chris, what's really connecting all of that is that we are all in fact connected. That I can't make my my clothes, I can't build a car, I need others for services. Like yesterday, I had my disposal had to be replaced because it was leaking. Somebody had to come and help serve me in getting that taken care of, or I was going to have a flood around here. It happened last week when I was washing those plums, in fact. Anyway, we are connected. We need each other, and we've gotten so. I have to admit, I've been pretty independent but it's much healthier when you're interdependent and appreciating what each other brings to the table. And as we include with that reciprocity, a feeling of gratitude for others helping us get through life is huge in wholehearted living.
It's a very good way to live for sure. So going back to what you're currently doing, you're currently making these courses, and you're working with newly retired individuals. So what do you like most about what you're doing right now?
Um, I have always been an encourager, and that helps me acknowledge and recognize the best in other people. And I'm kind of weird in that I love to collect stories of people who have had near-death experiences. And I paid attention to what messages they often bring back to us. And in fact, this list up here is exactly that. Reminding us that we are enough. We who we are is good the way we are. But I'm getting off. Your question was, I stumped you too. Anyway, let's see. What was your question, Chris?
Yes. So what do you love most about your current work right now?
Oh yeah. So when I read these people's stories of how beautiful and fragrant and colorful and the water looks like diamonds and all this kind of thing, I've then imagined standing in their shoes in this near-death experience and trying to absorb in my cells this glorious beauty and fragrances and all this. And then I said, okay, well, how does that change down here on Earth? Can I bring some of that gorgeous stuff here? And I feel like when I'm living from my intrinsic motivation, it creates a heaven on earth experience. The contentment, the satisfaction, the joy is exuding from our energy and our purpose and destiny to be here. Does that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense actually. So would you say that you mentioned these near death experiences, and would you say that you collect those stories a lot from the people that you're working with?
No, it's usually on YouTube that they pop up on a suggested, story about if I've subscribed to some, and I must have. They're usually long stories, but my favorite book about that was Proof of Heaven by Eben Alexander. And he was I believe, a neurosurgeon, and he contacted like practically overnight, forgot what it was, some neurological thing. And his experience in near-death experience was extraordinary, and he remembered a lot of details, and the elements that happened in his experience is very much related to his scientific background, and his curiosity was very and even the music, because he had grown up with somebody that sang opera. And so the music he heard in heaven was this operatic friend of his that was just marvelous. You could tell that this guy was giving from his heart with his voice and music. And I just so amazing that there's the feelings that come from somebody knowing us and interacting with us at our knowing us on the deepest level, and knowing that that's the joy that comes from sharing what's inside soul experience.
Yeah, it sounds like it is something that a lot of people tend to think. Well, they don't dwell on it per se, but they do think about it. So it is a very interesting topic for sure. Uh, so, Sharon, if you had to distill your wisdom into one powerful tip,
Oh,
what would it be?
yeah, that's easy. I saw this posted on a wall at work years and years ago, and it's by Thomas Wolfe. And he says, if one has a talent and fails to use it, one has failed. If one has a talent and partially uses it, one has partially failed. If one has a talent and finds somehow to use the whole of it, they have gloriously succeeded and won a satisfaction few people ever know. I want that to be so common that people are expressing their satisfaction at the deepest level. And before I go, I'll share with you my spark, and maybe you could have heard some of it coming out today. I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I'm tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires. I light your spark.
That's so beautiful, and yeah, we definitely need to get more get that message spread out more, because it is really really beautiful. So let me ask you, what where do you see yourself in the next year? What are your aspirations for moving forward?
Well, I have had a real challenge finding boomers, and I've decided that there's a lot of them on cruise ships. So I would like to be a life enrichment speaker on cruise ships. And in fact, in September, I will be taking a class on cruise ships, a cruise ship to from Fort Lauderdale to Jamaica, and being taught how to be real effective and making money at speaking. And I'm speaking here today, so I figure as long as I'm in being the influencer I feel like I was meant to be, then I'm doing what keeps me joyful.
Excellent, excellent. So lastly, how can our listeners connect with you? What are your preferred methods of contact, social channels? How can we reach you?
Well, I'm pretty active on Facebook, Sharon Rolph page. I also have an effortless vitality page that my VA and I both post on, but I'm weekly on Instagram as Sharon _Queen of Courage. And LinkedIn, I'm fairly active on LinkedIn, and I think I posted about a video here a couple days ago of this talk I'm getting ready to give next week on podcast. I'm on YouTube, and I've been kind of inactive there. I started out by holding up my little art blocks, and these are available on Etsy under the store name is Quilted Petunia. I'm holding up one that says, "Have you forgotten who you are?" Oftentimes that does happen in retirement. In fact, the quickest, easiest way to plug into volunteering is do what you did in your career for somebody else, for charity. So if you were accountant, find somebody who needs some accounting work done. If you're a pilot, find somebody that needs something people delivered or supplies delivered, maybe. But anyway, that was off track. Quilted Petunia. And my website is sharonrolph.com. I have a free ebook out there for a call to courage with 3 really strong tips about how you can be more courageous to be, do, or have. And now on the Great Discovery platform. There, I have 5 items out there. My book is out there. It's Fresh Courage in Retirement, Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment. And it is on Amazon. I call this a do-it-yourself finding purpose with a whole lot of resources that will help you target what would make your heart sing in retirement. So that's I'm getting pretty good at this products thing. I don't know what's next, but my signature system is Discover Your Spark, Rekindle Your Joy, and it will be up on the Great Discovery probably in the next 6 weeks.
Okay. That's excellent. And don't worry, to all our listeners, don't worry. We are going to put all that in the description so that you'll be able to see all that excellent information. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Sharon. Your insights and experiences are truly inspiring. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Procrastinator's Pit Stop, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories and practical advice to help you conquer procrastination and boost your productivity. Until next time, keep pushing forward and stay motivated.